Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the Criterion Collection Review Series, and today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite discoveries in the collection, and a film that is sort of a movie that maybe wasn't fully appreciated in its time, as were most of the works from this director, coincidentally. But it's a film that you can feel its influence and its importance in today's video essay medium. And that movie would be 1975's F for Fake by Orson Welles. This is number 288 in the collection. And this is a very unique movie. So in the beginning, when I was talking about how it's sort of a grandfather of video essays, what I mean by that is F for Fake is not a traditional documentary or a traditional narrative film. It lies somewhere in between, where it's basically Orson Welles has a topic, he has an idea he wants to touch on, and then he takes documentary footage, shoots his own footage, just takes a bunch of different stuff, and creates multiple narratives that are going on and interacting with each other through the magic of editing, and is able to explore these different ideas and questions about art, about magicians, about what it means to be a fake, to be a forger, and ultimately what is the point of experts in the world of art, and how do they determine the value of art, and what sort of role do forgers play, and who can be a forger, who do we define as a forger. That is a bare bones explanation of the film. To get a little more in depth, the film basically has like 6 different narratives. So we have the narrative about Elmire de Horay, who was one of the most notorious art forgers of the 20th century, who would paint these incredible copies of like Picasso and all these famous painters. They were so accurate and close to the original artists and their techniques that many museums and art buyers and art galleries couldn't tell the difference and would buy them for thousands and thousands of dollars. We also follow the story of Clifford Irving, who originally wrote the biography on Elmire de Horay, and then wrote the autobiography on Howard Hughes, which he then got called out for, and subsequently sort of had to pay the consequences for. And then we're also following the story of Howard Hughes and his life and his issues and things he dealt with. But then we also follow the Orson Welles' life and the things he went through. And then we're also following the story of this woman named Olga, who we're trying to figure out exactly how she plays into everything. And then there's the making of the film itself and that process, because all of these stories were kind of happening at the same time. They just happened to be on this island where Elmire and Clifford Irving were at, and Orson Welles sort of forged this film out of that interest and out of that time period. F for Fake is difficult to talk about because it is a very visual film. It takes writing techniques of like connecting ideas and paragraphs and mixing quotations and using them all to support a larger theme and idea, and makes it into a film. And it is a film that just hits the ground running, that has this very odd editing style where you have Orson Welles, who is a major figure in the film, performing this magic trick for a boy. You have Olga on a train, you have the film crew filming it, and eventually Orson Welles begins to speak to the audience and explain to them what the film is, and trying to get them on the same wavelength. And it's a film that you're either on board for in the beginning and you can be whisked away, or you are completely lost and will have a hard time catching up as it just races past. And I think that was difficult for a lot of viewers and a lot of critics at the time. But nowadays, that's a video essay, you know? This is the beginning of video essays and was a huge inspiration to what I think is one of the greatest film video essay channels ever, which is Every Frame a Painting, who made a video about the movie and was one of my first exposures to the film. And by watching that video, it gave me a better appreciation of this film's legacy and how it wasn't really appreciated at its time. People didn't quite understand it. They thought it was some Orson Welles vanity project, when in reality it's not entirely about him, even though it is. it's weird. It's a movie where he does talk a lot about himself and can easily tie it into the other topics of the film. How he's considered a charlatan, how being an actor is almost like being a magician, being a fake, playing a part. Those sort of ideas. How he is lauded by critics and hated by them as well, and they're considered the experts of film. But what do they know when he's making an art form that affects people? And at the same time, there are two very long sequences that's literally just Orson Welles showing off how beautiful his girlfriend is. And they are at once vital to the film and very uncomfortable. And very, especially knowing the history, we're even if you don't know, that Oya is not Orson Welles' mistress, it still is okay, we're spending a lot of time watching her in different outfits, walking around, showing off her body. It's a little And the point of those sequences is to show people looking at her and not fully noticing her or her changes or little details around them. Again, magicians, trickery, that sort of thing. Again, it's a very difficult movie to talk about, but what I can talk about is the experience of watching it and how after I see the movie, I find it difficult to describe it and to sort of retell how it happens, because it moves so quickly and is so just on top of it and on top of its game, and just it's this film that draws me in and I'm just enamored with, and it's the only thing I can focus on and my brain is processing with it. And so when Elmire is in one scene, one time and place speaking, and then Clifford Irving in another time and place is responding through the power of the magic of editing, of filmmaking, it's, I believe it. I'm invested. I take this as seriously as a narrative film, and Orson Welles is the narrator bringing all of this together. And it's just a movie that just is a magical experience. I can't think of any other movie that engages me in this way. It apparently took Welles an entire year to edit this film, and it shows. It's a movie that is an hour and a half, almost on the dot, and it just moves at a brisk pace and touches so many different topics, and may not have answers to any of the questions they pose, but makes you think a lot. And it's clear Orson Welles has a lot more respect for the magicians of the world, the forgers of the world, than he does for the experts and what you would even consider an expert, and really seems to hate gatekeeping and that sort of mentality within the art world. And of course, Welles himself is an extremely charismatic person that really drives the movie. Since Orson Welles is so charismatic, he's able to, through his narration, his discussion, he's able to really draw the audience in, so that when he does play tricks on the audience, there's a very big one that I don't want to spoil, but he does play some tricks on us. It makes sense how he does it. He does it so expertly, and it's so effortless. It's simply amazing. And I think, Orson Welles himself being in the film could be enough to drive it, but every individual story that's being told is fascinating and could be an entire film on its own. And in fact, the co-director was making a documentary about Elmire, and so they took footage from that documentary and made this one. I don't know, it's a miracle of editing. It's a miracle of a film that is unable to be defined, and only recently, probably in the past 10 years, has been able to properly be compared to anything, which I feel like After Fake was a much more experimental and bizarre film outside of today's context, where videos videos that are edited and represented and discussing topics in a similar way to After Fake come out every single day. I've made videos like that. This movie has been an inspiration to me, where I've tried to match the editing and the pacing and the video essay structure. It's an amazing film, a very unique experience. I mean, this is probably the third or fourth time I've watched the movie in my life, and I still find new things and lines and images that I'd forgotten, because the movie just moves at such a brisk pace. It's a fantastic movie. And luckily the Criterion edition itself has a ton of great special features to really honor this film and its legacy. There's just really great 1 hour interview between Orson Welles and this the 70s talk show host. It gets into a lot of his details and is very well done. There's an introduction from Peter Bogdanovich, who helped to get the movie released in America and throughout the world. We have a documentary about Orson Welles' unfinished projects. We have an hour-long documentary about Elmire. We have an interview with Clifford Irving. There's a recording of the Hughes press conference that was featured in the film, and then there's the 9-minute trailer for F for Fake, directed by Orson Welles himself, which is sort of like a thesis statement on the whole film. And then you have this really great essay written by Jonathan Rosenbaum that is a fantastic look at how the film was seen at the time of its release and how difficult it was for people to really get a grasp on it since it was so different and so unique. And will also just people's general feelings on Welles muddying up the film, and that's in no small part because Welles himself muddies up the film and what it's about. Again, it's a film that's difficult to pinpoint. It's an experimental art film that only recently has become resonant and important and can be properly described as a film essay. And it's one of my favorite films in the collection, and a movie that I constantly admire and love to think about and discuss. But thank you all so much for watching. What do you think of F for Fake? What do you think of Orson Welles? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please like it. If you want more people to see it, please share it. And if you want to watch more videos like this, please subscribe, because next time we're going to be looking at the amazing documentary Hoop Dreams, which was one of Roger Ebert's favorite films, and I'm very excited to be talking about that. But either way, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.